Good evening and welcome to Know Your Rights. This is the show where you hear directly from the lawyers who break down the law and explain the rights of citizens on common legal issues that confront Belizeans on a regular basis. This week is Intellectual Property Week, and tonight we are joined by the Deputy Registrar of BELIPO, Ms. Olabimpe Akinkule, and we will be discussing what intellectual property rights mean for you and the practical implications in our lives. Good evening and welcome, Ola.
Good evening, Khadija.
So it's interesting because intellectual property is a topic we had done before.
Yes.
So this is the first topic that we're actually bringing back.
Yes.
And I think it's very good because a lot of feedback we're getting is that these topics are so heavy,
Yes.
they're so big, and we try and squeeze it into 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And so we always tell people, well, we just want to get the conversation started, and then we simmer down for a bit,
Yeah.
and then we bring it back. So you're here to bring it back for us.
Bring it back because we want the seriousness and the value in IP is becoming enormous that we can no longer turn a blind eye to it any longer. So I'm glad that I am here to spread and advocate for essentially what IP can do for any individual out there with a business.
So let's draw back a little bit and discuss what is meant by intellectual property.
Okay, intellectual property, in breaking it down, the creation, anything that is created, ideas that just come through and it is expressed in a tangible form. Mm-hmm. So essentially, we are looking at an intangible asset that has been placed in a tangible form, and you have the right to exploit it, to make use of it, to generate income from it. So and more so to assign it to another person or to license it. So essentially that is what intellectual property is. The creation of something that is an idea that you have placed in a tangible format.
Okay. So BELIPO.
Yes.
What is BELIPO?
Okay. So BELIPO is the Belize Intellectual Property Office. We are located in Belmopan on 1902 Constitution Drive.
Okay.
Third floor, if persons don't know where we are located. And we predominantly cater to the public when it comes to the registration of their trademarks, of their patents, of their industrial design,
okay,
of their new plant varieties, and also when it comes to their copyright. So
okay,
we essentially provide those services when it comes to this even submission of various recordals. So recordals just meaning if you, as being the registered proprietor of a trademark, and you want to essentially assign such ownership to someone else or give such exclusive license to someone else, you can always come to our office and get that registered, get the license, get a contract registered at the Belize Intellectual Property Office.
Okay, so
yes,
this is just one of many stops for you, especially during this week.
Yes.
I heard one of your colleagues this morning on Love FM.
Yes.
So it's an entire week of bringing awareness to intellectual property, and you even spoke to me earlier about there was an IP Day, World IP Day.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, we're being ambitious here because it is something that we are going to continue later on in the year to still advocate and to bring the awareness of what intellectual property is. But we're using this week to commemorate Intellectual Property Day, which is essentially on April 26th. And the theme is Powering Change, Women in Innovation and Creativity. Like so I do apologize for the men out there. We are going to shine light on you, but this is for the ladies. I think it is essentially safe to say that when March gave us International Women's Day, April just came forth and said, you know what, we're going to honor women who are creative, who are innovators, who are trendsetters. And of course, we grabbed at that team and we decided amongst my staff that we're just going to just let this week just be all about IP and also advocating for it and also essentially bringing women to the forefront.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. Yes.
So when it comes to intellectual property. And I threw this question out to the attorney who came the first time, Marissa.
Miss Marissa.
And I said, how is it that you deal with the culture battle?
Yes.
Because essentially the value, the perception of value from the Belizean context, the Belizean market, it's lacking for intellectual property. So how do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, is to say that we don't necessarily know what it is, for example.
Okay.
And our everyday interaction or interaction with various brands, or our everyday interaction with various copyrighted works, we don't essentially know what goes into developing a brand, into developing a copyrighted work, into developing an industrial, a design, an ornamental design, or just the effort that goes into it. So essentially, we need to bring it back, even to the little child.
Okay.
Who goes to primary school and comes up with an idea. We need to start instilling and teaching how best they can creatively to harness that creativity and producing it in a tangible way. So, for example, if a child has an idea of creating a story or a story itself, a teacher should be right there to say, okay, put down your stories. Or sometimes we always have teachers who always give us work. Write how your day was. And essentially, when writing that and seeing the potential that that child has, you encourage, okay, come up with another line until maybe it becomes, you create such a writer in that child that the child then decides, I want to be an author. I want to publish a book. So the effort that that child puts in creating something is that child will take value in and of itself in seeing that it is protected, that no one just takes that book and makes an adaptation of it. No one takes that book and distributes it. No one takes that book and make it available, and even make it available to the public without its consent. Its consent. Sorry. So essentially, we need to go all the way back. Even from primary school, and teach them the value of creating, the value of putting in the effort, putting in the energy in creating something, and do not discourage them. Because I think that's something that we as an adult, as a teacher, we tend to be dismissive
of
originality and expression.
Yes.
If it is not something coming from the United States, from Europe, from China, it is not of value. So I think we essentially need to bring it back, encourage, and from there, develop them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting is that the lackadaisical culture, when it comes to the perception of valuing our originality, our Belizean pieces, it's really a detriment to our entire artistic industry.
It is. Because I think I go back to this example of our created works that I saw it die slowly. That is no matter what. I took a very interesting look that I actually have the original copies of that work. And I said, wow, why is it that something of that nature is not being done again? Why are we sitting down on creativity where within this copyrighted work, we have the language, we have the mannerism, we have the various locations that identify Belize, that brings Belize to the international realm. So essentially, it is to say that we need to go back to our originality. Content, provide that content is the way how foreigners come in and want to buy certain things that is made of Belize. We need to start encouraging others to create that for persons who want to know what Belize is.
I think anybody who right now is sitting on some talent and after hearing this first segment would be very inspired to go out there and seek BELIPO out. But we have to take a very short break, and then we will be right back to continue our discussion on intellectual property. Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am Khadija Usher, and our guest tonight is Attorney at Law and Deputy Registrar of BELIPO, Olabimpe Akinkule, and we are discussing intellectual property. So, Ola, let's throw out a practical scenario.
Okay.
Right? This June, actually, a lot of musicians, including myself, we are practicing for the upcoming Jazz Festival.
Okay.
The Jazz Festival is one of the biggest festivals where you can experience Belizean music beside regional music as well, big artists and performers. I have a piece of music and I want to participate in the festival. It's mine at this point.
Okay.
What is the process I would go through to ensure that my intellectual property is protected?
Okay, so one thing about musical works, and this falls under the Copyright Act of Belize, there is not a formality for registration. But because, again, Belize is a signatory to the Berne Convention, so it automatically, as you produce it, it is protected. But we encourage the formality, we encourage the registration. So essentially, once you have your musical works in a tangible form, with your keynotes, with everything, you come to our office and just for $50, you deposit your copyrighted works, and then we issue you a copyright depository certificate stating that on this set day you have deposited these musical works by you at BELIPO. Or you can use another method of just emailing that to yourself, ensuring that that email is a sort of evidence. That is what you call the poor man method that was actually expanded on by my colleague, Ms. Marisa. So essentially it's just to show that you are the owner, and if there is any contentious matter that arises from, in terms of ownership, you have something to show, a certificate from BELIPO or a post mail or the email itself to say that this is an evidence to say that this is your work.
Okay, so the formal method might save you a lot of headaches later on.
So we encourage that you come to our office and you register it, and we have been, and many artists, many composers, many authors are making use of this system. So I encourage that more should come in, and it's just for $50 for a work to be deposited.
Okay. So what is it that I, the artist, receive in terms of my rights? What does this entitle me to?
Okay, so now you are, in terms of musical works, because you, in terms of the works, you are given the exclusive right to make an adaptation of it. You can give it to someone to make an adaptation of it. Okay. You are also given the right to distribute it, to make it available and accessible to the public. You also have the right to even rent your musical works too as well. So essentially what is needed, and this is what is termed the economic right of your works that you can issue to somebody. You can even license it, you can even assign it. And there is always the moral right aspect of your musical works, that whatever you have distributed, you have licensed, you have made it accessible to the public, that you have the moral right to be identified as the creator, as the author of that musical work. And also an aspect of your moral right is that no one can take your work and use it in a negative and in a derogatory manner that brings disrepute to your original works. That takes the essential substance of what your musical work was supposed to be for, was meant to be within its original context, and use it in a derogatory manner that brings disrepute to you.
When you say that, my mind flashes a lot on the American music industry, where I know even if you take a little rhythm, they hear that little melody from a former song, and you put it in yours, you have to go through extensive lengths to get the permissions to use it. So for the user now, from the user perspective, how do I go about correctly using, whether it's musical work, whether it's literary work, if I'm a student, what is the proper protocol?
Well, when you have, one thing about copyrighted work is you always have to be conscious of the bundle of rights that subsist within a work. So for example, if you are, you want to use a song to in an advertisement. Let's just use that for example. And the song just will be able to lure consumers in buying your product. Mm-hmm. Within a song, you have the lyric. Within a song, you have the sound recording. Mm-hmm. Within the same song, too, you also have the composer who arranged the lyric and arranged the sound recordings. Okay. And even within the song, too, you also have to also pay attention to the very fact that each right subsists and each right, there is income already being generated by each person. Mm-hmm. So essentially, if you want to use someone's song within an ad, you have to ensure that permission, consent has been given to you to make use of that work within an ad. That is why essentially when you go on Facebook and you want to put in any performer, if you see a child dancing to a Michael Jackson song and you want to put it on Facebook, immediately Facebook alerts you, listen, we are hearing Michael Jackson. Have you received any consent from that individual? Yeah. And let's be realistic. How is it that we're able to get permission from Michael Jackson, who is no longer here? Yeah. But essentially, how is it that we are able to get that permission? Mm-hmm. So essentially, it will take time to go all the way back to trying to get who is your booking agent, who is the person in charge of your distribution system in Belize. But essentially, authorization must be given to you and consent and permission must be given to you for the use of that.
Of that song.
Exactly.
I remember a coin term Marissa used the last time. She said, if it plays, you must get paid.
Exactly.
Something I remember.
Exactly, because one thing that you always have to understand is artists, composers, authors, they put a lot into their work. And people are not understanding that respect must be given where it is due. The energy to exhausted in producing something, that can just be your bread and butter.
Yeah.
You understand me? So for you to just take something that does not even belong to you and you're making money off of it, come on. Yeah.
So we need to take one more short break, but coming up now is the second in the series of RF&G educational series, What to Do in the Event of an Accident, after which we will take our final break. Thank you. Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am Khadija Usher, and our guest tonight is Attorney at Law, Deputy Registrar of BELIPO, Olabimpe Akinkule, and we are discussing intellectual property. So the question that is on everybody's mind, and that is in the news for us, is what is the situation with the cable? When Marissa was here, it actually had not happened as yet. It happened right after her episode. Yes. But what our cable providers at this moment, they are not compliant.
Yes.
What are the stages they would have to go through to become compliant, and how would that affect the Belizean people?
Okay. Well, first of all, the Cable Association have been taking some steps in trying to be compliant with copyrighted, with all the programs that have been showcasing throughout our TV programs, and by directly having negotiating bargainings and by speaking to the programmers who create this content, who create such content. And it is important to understand that content that we have such an enjoyment in watching there is value in that content being shown. Yeah. And with such value, you have to pay for it.
Yes.
So right now, there are going to be some programs that we might not have the privilege of watching again if the license has not been made yet between the cable programmers. So I definitely know that the Cable Association love us very much and love the services that they provide to us.
Okay.
And we love our daily excitement on Thursdays when we get to watch Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Away with Murder. So I know that they are taking the steps in properly negotiating whatever license with these content providers in order to provide that to us. So they doing that, they are respecting the copyrighted works that exist within this content. But equally, it is also to say that we also need to start encouraging our own content too as well. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, all this content that we are enjoying, the monies goes back, the royalties rather goes back outside. And nothing stays in here. Yeah. So let's get creative now that let the Cable Association begin showing content that belongs to Belize so that the money itself can stay here.
So what are the risks involved? Because what a lot of people are saying is, we do it for so long, it even matter? What they are do to it?
Well, I am going to be careful with this one. There is a lot that can be done, but example taken from one of my Caribbean countries, when it comes to Jamaica, they have instilled strict sanctions. And one of them is you not having the privilege of enjoying watching this content. So they just take away your cable and just suspend it for 30 months. Or not 30 months, 30 days. Okay. So essentially you don't want that to ever happen and you don't want it to get to that extent that that enjoyment is taken away from you. So again, compliance needs to be very strict, and it also goes back to respecting the copyrighted works that is provided within the program that you're watching, because a lot has to be taken into consideration, not only the actors and the actresses, but the composers, the person who is there assisting the director getting from one scene to another scene. So again, it boils down to respecting, and it boils down to ensuring that your license are enforced properly too as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that here at Colorblind, we are extremely appreciative of your work, because we do put a lot of value into the content that we provide. Yeah. Ola, you are on a IP mission. Yes. That's what I'm going to call it. Yes. Because it's a mission, right? Is. You're continuing with your IP week.
Yes.
What are the final words you want to emphasize or leave with the Belizean people right now about intellectual property?
One thing is get creative. Be original in what you do. Okay. Not everything that you see from another person should be taken biblically. Okay. You must always learn to create something and master your craft. That is the most important thing. And most of all, register your intellectual property. It is very important. Registration, there's a registration system in place. Make use of it. I no longer want to hear, oh, but what is intellectual property though? It's been explained. You can come to register your brand, get creative in terms of producing whatever musical work, whatever film, and register it. When it comes to your industrial design, you want to create an ornamental earrings, come and have it registered. You want to, even from the breeder's right, farmers, we cater to farmers too as well. Yeah. If you have different type of seeds that you want to also register, come to BELIPO. Okay. Just get creative with it. Yeah. And put all your ideas in tangible form.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I leave with that.
Thank you, Ola.
Yes.
And we have come to the end of our show for tonight. Thank you once again, Ola, for joining us and providing such insight on tonight's topic. Tune in next week when we will be joined by attorney Sheena Pitts, who will be discussing your rights in relation to the pre- and post-medical intervention. Tonight's episode of Know Your Rights repeats at 1 p.m. on Sunday on Channel 7, and it will also be available for your viewing on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching, and good night.